My name was Ahmad. I was a prosecutor in New York, a steadfast pillar of justice in a world rife with shadows. I wore the badge of discipline and respect, but deep within, I felt an emptiness that gnawed at my spirit, a dissonance between the faith I practiced and the truth I sought. I dedicated my life to the law, but as the days passed, I began to question everything I believed, even the very essence of my faith. Then came that fateful day, a day that would mark the end of my old self. During a critical cross-examination, without warning, the lights dimmed, and I lost consciousness. In that surreal silence, I was transported to a spiritual tribunal, illuminated by an intense, divine light. And there, standing before me, was Jesus. He called my name, and in that moment, reality unraveled. My world split apart, revealing a war between light and darkness that had been masquerading as religion. What I saw shattered my perception of the faith I revered. I witnessed how the chains of tradition had bound me, obscuring a far deeper truth. My once cherished beliefs crumbled like dust in the wind, and I understood that my journey was not just personal. It was a universal awakening that echoed beyond the walls of my own convictions. But that awakening came at a price. When I returned, dragging myself from the ashes of my near-death experience, I was met with hostility, betrayal, and the label of heretic from those I loved most. The guilt and grief consumed me as I struggled to reconcile my new reality with the unwavering force of familial loyalty. In secret, I found solace within the pages of the Bible, a forbidden text that buzzed with life anew. I watched testimonies of others who had dared to tread the line of faith and doubt, and for the first time, I felt a flicker of hope. But the shadows of fear loomed large. What would become of my identity, my culture, my family? This testimony I'm about to share isn't just my story. It is a cry from the depths of despair, a light beckoning those trapped in darkness. I stand here now, driven by a divine calling, to spark the flames of awakening in your own hearts. Before we dive deeper, tell me, where are you watching from, and what time is it in your world? I want to feel the pulse of our shared truth. And if you love Jesus, subscribe to Truth from Beyond. This journey is just beginning, and each revelation brings us closer to the profound truth that lies beyond the veil. The courtroom was alive with a tension that seemed to pulse through the air, reflecting the intricate tapestry of cultures that made up New York City. As I, a prosecutor, stood before the judge and jury, I felt the weight of my responsibilities pressing down harder than usual. I had spent years navigating the delicate balance between seeking justice and honoring the diverse beliefs of those around me. Yet, in the midst of this seemingly ordinary day, my life was about to change forever. My focus was drawn to the witness on the stand, but I felt a sudden wave of dizziness wash over me. The room began to blur, and before I knew it, I was engulfed in darkness. In that terrifying moment, I left behind the confines of the courtroom and was thrust into a reality where time itself ceased to exist. It was in this profound void that I encountered Jesus. His presence was overwhelming, enveloping me in a light so pure it pierced through the darkness of my despair. He looked at me with eyes filled with compassion and understanding, and in that moment I understood that the revelations he was about to share were far greater than my personal struggles. Jesus unfolded truths about our existence, showing me the hidden agendas crafted by the elite. I witnessed how entire societies were manipulated through fear, division, and deceit, all designed to keep us from understanding our real potential. The urgency of his message echoed in my soul, urging me to recognize the spiritual war that raged not only within me but throughout humanity. I saw images of wars and conflicts, not just physical battles but ideological wars that pitted us against one another, fueled by the very deception that kept us in line. Jesus revealed how technology was weaponized against us, creating barriers to connection while fostering isolation. His words wrapped around me like a blanket of truth, igniting a fervor within me, a desire to share these insights with the world. It became clear that my voice could be a catalyst for awakening, that I could help others break free from the shackles of manipulation and fear. As I began to return to my body, the intensity of this experience lingered, intertwining with my essence. I awoke in the courtroom, my heart racing as I grappled with the magnitude of what had just transpired. The judge and jury remained unaware, locked in their legal battles, while I had been gifted an unparalleled view of reality, one that urged me to act. I could feel the spiritual war pressing on my shoulders, compelling me to embrace my role as a harbinger of truth, armed with the revelations imparted to me by Jesus. The greater narrative of our lives awaited my involvement, and as I took a deep breath, I understood that my journey was just beginning. My life as a prosecutor had always been marked by discipline and a relentless pursuit of justice. At 35, I was respected in my profession, navigating the challenges of the courtroom with a sharp focus and unwavering commitment. Yet beneath the polished exterior, there lurked a silent emptiness that gnawed at my core. I felt a growing dissonance between my professional life and my spiritual identity. While I honored my religious obligations, a deeper yearning for understanding pulled at my heart, inviting me to explore facets of my faith that I had long neglected. Caught in this emotional repression, I often distracted myself with work, burying any thought of my spiritual discontent beneath a mountain of case files and legal briefs. I was a man accustomed to control, my feelings tightly bound and hidden away, yet the weight of unexamined beliefs was becoming increasingly suffocating. There were moments during my prayers when I felt a desperate longing for something more, a connection that seemed to elude me. It was as if the rituals meant to fill my spirit only reinforced the void. I needed a revelation, something profound that could bridge the chasm I felt inside. Then, one day, everything changed during a particularly intense cross-examination in the courtroom. As I pushed through the questions, I suddenly felt lightheaded and detached, the world around me beginning to fade. In an instant, I was thrust into a realm of darkness where time lost meaning. It was in this void that I encountered Jesus, radiating love and compassion, his presence illuminating the depths of my soul. Our eyes locked, and in that moment, I knew I was exactly where I needed to be. He spoke to me, revealing truths that shattered the preconceived notions I had about faith, my purpose, and the world itself. Through our connection, the revelations poured forth like a rushing river. Jesus unveiled the hidden agenda that had kept humanity shackled to fear and division. I was shown the deceptive narratives spun by the elite, watching as they manipulated events and emotions to maintain control. I saw the fractures created in our society, how technology, once a means of connection, became a tool of isolation. The intensity of this truth was staggering. I felt both the weight of despair and the urgency to awaken from this slumber that had enveloped so many. As the vision began to fade, I was thrust back into reality, gasping for breath in the austere confines of the courtroom. The emotional toll was immense. I had glimpsed a spiritual war almost too overwhelming to comprehend. The stakes were high, and I realized that my life had become intricately tied to this awakening. I needed to act, to reconcile my spiritual journey with my professional obligations, to share this truth with others who were also navigating their own battles in the dark. Every heartbeat resonated with the call to unveil these truths, and with each passing second, I knew that my journey was just beginning, a path that would unfold with urgency and purpose in the days ahead. Long hours at work were the norm for me, a disciplined prosecutor navigating the complexities of the legal system. Yet, as my days turned into weeks, I felt a deepening sense of discontent creeping into my soul. During my prayers, I struggled to find the connection that once brought me comfort. I would close my eyes, bow my head, and utter the familiar phrases, but they felt hollow, like echoes in an empty chamber. I couldn't voice my doubts to family or colleagues. I felt isolated in a world that insisted on certainty, where questioning faith was often frowned upon. These moments of uncertainty were compounded by unsettling dreams that invaded my sleep. I found myself wandering through dark landscapes where faces I didn't recognize watched me with piercing eyes. In these dreams, I felt a profound disconnect from my true essence, as if I were drifting further from the values and beliefs I had always held dear. The dreamscapes were laden with tension, filled with feelings I couldn't articulate when awake. Each time I awoke, I carried a weight of confusion that obscured the clarity I desperately sought in my daily life. One particular night, as I lay there trying to shake the remnants of another unsettling dream, I felt a sudden warmth wash over me. It was comforting yet unsettling at the same time. I drifted into a state between sleep and consciousness, and found myself in an extraordinary encounter with Jesus. There he stood before me, radiant and full of love, yet I could sense the weight of the world pressing upon his shoulders. He spoke softly yet firmly, breaking through the cacophony of doubt that had plagued me for so long. His presence overwhelmed me, and in that moment I understood that the revelations about to unfold were meant not solely for me, but for the larger tapestry of humanity. Jesus began to unveil the truths hidden within the very fabric of our society. He exposed the deception woven by the elite, revealing how entire communities were manipulated by fear and division. I was shown glimpses of the spiritual war that raged around us, a conflict that was as much about the hearts and minds of individuals as it was about power and control. I saw the impacts of technology and social media, once thought to connect us, now exploited to deepen isolation and misunderstanding. The urgency of the message weighed on me, pressing me to recognize the responsibility that came with such knowledge. As the vision pulled back, I was again left to grapple with the profound implications of what had been revealed. Awakening from this experience, I returned to consciousness with a clarity I had never known. But the juxtaposition with my everyday life felt jarring. I was back in my bed, the sounds of the city filtering through my window, but I was irrevocably changed. The truth I had encountered demanded action, and I could no longer stand by silently. The revelation stirred a fire within me, a passion to engage with the world around me in a way that could help others awaken to their truths, even if it meant confronting the divisions that had long held us captive. As I laid there, contemplating my next steps, I realized that my journey toward understanding and sharing these truths had only just begun. During a crucial hearing packed with tension, the weight of my responsibilities pressed heavily on my chest. As a prosecutor, I had honed my abilities to assess evidence and navigate the intricacies of the law. I was deep in the cross-examination, articulating my arguments with conviction, when suddenly, everything spun out of control. Darkness enveloped my vision, and before I realized what was happening, I lost consciousness and fell to the ground. The next thing I knew, I was not in the courtroom anymore. I was floating in a void, and an overwhelming sense of peace washed over me. I felt detached from my physical body, yet at the same time, I was intensely aware of my surroundings. In this other realm, light broke through the darkness, piercing my heart with warm, radiant energy. It was there that I encountered Jesus, magnificent and awe-inspiring. His presence exuded a love that felt both familiar and profoundly unsettling. He called my name, and as I looked into his eyes, I saw not just compassion but also a reflection of my deepest fears and unanswered questions. In that moment, I was struck with the awareness of how the spiritual war we all face is often cloaked in the very structures we hold sacred. Jesus began to reveal truths that unraveled the fabric of my understanding, shining a light on the potential obscurities surrounding the religious practices and beliefs I had embraced all my life. What I began to grasp was shocking. I saw how the hidden agendas of the elite played out in our everyday lives. Beneath the surface of our reality, there were forces manipulating societal norms and fueling conflicts, keeping us divided and passive. Jesus revealed how easy it is to be blindsided by the deception woven throughout politics, media, and religion. The narratives fed to us were carefully crafted to instill fear, to create division among communities strong enough to stand against the ongoing manipulation. I watched as families were torn apart, friendships dissolved, and trust was eroded by a relentless battle fueled by these agendas. With every revelation came an urgency that gripped my heart. I recognized the responsibility that came with this knowledge. There was a call to action echoing in my soul, compelling me to awaken to my true purpose. I felt an intense desire to return to my life and share this insight, urging others to look beyond the facades we've come to accept as truth. As I stood before Jesus, he emphasized that our spiritual awakening isn't just personal. It's a collective battle against the forces that seek to keep us in ignorance. Each one of us can be a beacon of truth amid the chaos, but only if we dare to confront the darkness. Before I could grasp the full spectrum of what I had learned, the light began to pull away from me, and I felt a yearning to stay in that glorious presence. But as I was drawn back into the physical world, a sense of urgency surged through me. I knew that I had to fight against the deception I had witnessed and help others awaken to their own potential. The experience changed everything. It was no longer about my own doubts or fears. I realized that I was a part of something greater, a movement toward awareness, truth, and love amidst a spiritual war. As I prepared to wake up in my body, I could feel the weight of the world pressing on me, a reminder that my journey was only beginning, and the path ahead was laden with challenges that demanded my courage and resolve. When I woke up, the sterile smell of the hospital room mixed with the harsh fluorescent light felt almost surreal. I had returned from an experience that had changed me irrevocably, but now I faced a deeper challenge. As I shared the details of my encounter with Jesus, I felt the weight of rejection settle heavily upon me. My family, those who had guided my journey since childhood, looked at me with disbelief and hurt. They labeled me a heretic, and their judgment cut deeper than any wound I had ever endured. The very people who I once turned to for understanding had now become the embodiment of my greatest fears. Each family gathering turned into an echo chamber of discontent. I found myself caught in a whirlwind of pressure to conform, to adhere to the beliefs that had defined my existence up until that point. The emotional turmoil that accompanied their rejection intensified my feelings of guilt. I had sought the truth and unveiled a hidden agenda that wrapped around our very lives, but in their eyes, I'd betrayed our traditions. The spiritual war one had experienced, with revelations about our society and the manipulation by the elite, felt alien and unwelcome among those who had once stood by me. In the silence of my solitude, my nights were consumed with restless dreams filled with shadows and questions. I grappled with intense loneliness, wondering if this path of awakening was worth the cost. The devotion to faith that I had once cherished now felt like a chain around my heart, binding me to a past fraught with uncertainty. The visions of the spiritual awakening I had witnessed haunted me, reminding me of the depth of the deception that kept so many in the dark. My mind raced with the urgent need to confront the truths that Jesus had revealed, but it seemed I bore this burden alone. As the pressure to return to a state of conformity loomed large, I felt a fire igniting within me, a call to counteract the deception I had witnessed. I had seen the threads of division woven through our society, how technology was being wielded to keep us isolated and disengaged. The manipulation of information by those in power had become clearer than ever. Yet, when I expressed these thoughts, I faced skepticism, and the fear of further alienation loomed. Each attempt to share this knowledge felt like a desperate grasp at a lifeline in a sea of doubt. Despite the heartache of rejection, I realized that my awakening wasn't just for me. It was also a responsibility. I needed to find a way to communicate the truth I had received, to help others understand that this spiritual journey was a path toward freedom. The truths I had encountered were not merely abstract concepts. They were essential revelations about our collective existence. I felt an urgency to rally those still lost in the deceptions of modern life, to inspire them to confront their own truths and to awaken from their slumber. As I stood at the crossroads of my faith and the burden of isolation, I knew that my journey was only beginning, filled with obstacles yet to be faced, but driven by a fierce desire to illuminate the shadows that surrounded so many. As I sat in the solitude of my apartment, the weight of my decisions pressed heavily upon me. In the aftermath of my encounter with Jesus, I found myself on an unexpected journey, one steeped in both fear and curiosity. Secretly, I began exploring the Bible, an act that felt both liberating and profoundly unsettling. It was a forbidden fruit, a venture into unfamiliar territory that, if discovered, could shatter the already tenuous bonds I had with my family and culture. The moment I opened the pages, each verse resonated with a truth that ignited a fire within me, a sense of awakening to something greater than myself. As days turned into weeks, I delved deeper into the stories and teachings found in those sacred texts. I sought out testimonies from individuals who had undergone similar transformations, drawn together by the common thread of an awakening that defied societal expectations. Each story I heard echoed my own experience of encountering a profound revelation that shattered previous convictions. I felt a sense of peace wash over me, knowing that I wasn't alone in feeling disconnected from the structures I had respected all my life. Yet with that peace came an undercurrent of fear. Fear of losing my cultural identity and family ties that had defined who I was, leaving me at a crossroads of faith and loyalty. Conversations with others who had also embarked on this path opened my eyes to the broader implications of our spiritual war. Many spoke of how the hidden agendas perpetuated by the elite shaped our belief systems, manipulating societal narratives to keep us subdued and compliant. I began to recognize the undercurrents of deception that surrounded us, understanding that this battle for truth extended far beyond personal journeys. It was a fight for the soul of humanity itself. The more I uncovered, the more urgent it became to share the truth I had discovered, to break down the walls of division that had kept us all in shadow. Every interaction stirred a potent tension within me. As much as I wanted to shout these truths from the rooftops, I feared the consequences of stepping too far away from the traditions I had adhered to since childhood. What would my family think if they learned of my growing alignment with beliefs that seemed foreign to them? This battle between my newfound enlightenment and the expectations of my upbringing grew heavier with each passing day. I often grappled with feelings of guilt, torn between the love I had for my family and the truths demanding to be expressed. In those quiet moments of solitude, I understood that every journey of awakening involves its own set of sacrifices. I began to see my exploration as a bridge, a connection between the past that shaped me and the future that awaited me. Jesus had illuminated my path, urging me to embrace the tension, to walk boldly into the unknown even if it meant facing rejection and misunderstanding. The realization washed over me that the beautiful tapestry of truth woven through Scripture could coexist with my cultural identity. There was a message to be shared, not just for my own healing, but for the countless others who remained in darkness, longing for the light I had found. Just as I was drawn into this awakening, I felt called to guide others along this path, even as uncertainty loomed on the horizon. The journey ahead was daunting, but the thirst for truth compelled me to press forward into the light, ready to uncover what awaited just beyond the veil of understanding. As I embraced this newfound faith, a profound realization settled in my heart. My experience was not just a chance encounter, it was a divine calling. The moment I awoke from my coma, I understood that my life had been forever altered, and with that came an urgent responsibility. The truth that Jesus revealed would compel me to share my testimony, to help others uncover their own truths, and navigate the murky waters of belief and deception. Yet I also knew the risks involved in breaking the silence that had once protected me from doubt and scrutiny. Diving deeper into my faith, I began to recognize the intricacies of the spiritual war surrounding us. I found myself drawn to Scripture, the stories resonating with the revelations I had experienced in the darkest hours of my life. Each passage illuminated the ways in which the elite manipulate information, perpetuating a hidden agenda designed to keep people in fear, division, and ignorance. I began to understand how ensnared I had been in this web of lies, and the urgency to awaken others pressed upon me like a heavy weight that would not let go. I spent countless nights reflecting on how to approach my family and my community with this newfound truth. I grappled with feelings of fear and guilt, torn between the comforting familiarities of my upbringing and the undeniable call toward deeper understanding. The tension grew as I recognized that while my family adhered to a strict interpretation of faith, my journey led me to question the very structures they held sacred. Sharing my experience would mean stepping into the unknown, risking alienation in exchange for the possibility of awakening others. As I began to find my voice, I immersed myself in conversations with others who shared similar transformative experiences. These discussions sparked hope, igniting a collective yearning for the truth that lay hidden beneath layers of societal deception. We spoke of the world as a stage for a grand illusion, where wars were fought not just on physical battlegrounds but in the very hearts of individuals. The fight for awareness was becoming an urgent, shared mission, one that required courage and resilience. I realized that our awakening was linked, and we could guide each other through the darkness. But even as I felt empowered, I remained acutely aware of the dangers of this path. In speaking out against the dominant narratives, I risked my reputation, my relationships, and my place within my family and culture. Yet, the truth I had encountered demanded expression. Jesus had shown me the potential for healing, not just for myself but for all those captive in a cycle of fear and deception. I understood that silence was complicity, and I could no longer abide by the fear that kept so many in chains. The call to action reverberated within me, and as I prepared to step into this mission, I felt a grueling yet transformative journey ahead that would inevitably shape the course of my life. Determined to follow the calling that had awakened within me, I made the monumental decision to leave behind my former life as a prosecutor. The weight of expectation had become unbearable, and I felt the urgent need to create a sanctuary for myself, one that would allow me to embrace the revelations that Jesus had shared during my near-death experience. I chose to adopt a new name, a symbol of my spiritual liberation and the life I intended to live moving forward. Every aspect of that decision felt monumental. I was stepping into uncharted waters while letting go of the familiar, driven by a truth that surged with purpose. As I began to carve out this new path, I found solace in building a safe space that echoed my commitment to truth and awakening. I transformed my surroundings, filling them with books and materials that inspired me, drawing me closer to a profound understanding of the spiritual war we often overlook. News reports, articles, and testimonies poured into my life, each one presenting evidence of the hidden agendas perpetuated by the elite. As I soaked in these messages, the reality of how deeply interconnected our lives are began to sink in. The divine call to evangelize resonated within me, urging me to share my journey of awakening with others who might also be living under the weight of deception. Meeting others along this journey was crucial. I found various communities where individuals gathered to discuss faith, spirituality, and the complexities of life. Each conversation served as a catalyst for deeper understanding, illuminating the struggles many faced in navigating their awakening. I spoke openly about my experiences and encounters with Jesus, recounting the truths he revealed to me about society and our role in it. I felt a shared urgency as we explored the implications of spirituality against the backdrop of a world fraught with division. The framework of politics often felt downright sinister, manipulated by those seeking power and control over the masses. Yet, the journey wasn't without its challenges. Deep inside, a fear lingered. Fear of losing connections to my past, fear of judgment, and fear of losing the cultural ties that had once grounded me. Each time I shared my story, I felt that tension anew. I was aware that many who loved me might view my journey as a betrayal, a deviation from the beliefs we had once shared. But as I dug deeper into the truth, I understood that the potential for spiritual awakening outweighed the risks of rejection. Jesus had shown me that we are meant to rise above our fears and create connections that transcend the confines of our cultures and traditions. My commitment to spreading this truth solidified over time. The more I engaged with others, the more I recognized the magnitude of what we were all facing, a collective awakening from a daze that caused so many to stumble in the dark. The urgency of sharing this truth became a consuming fire within me, compelling me to reach out beyond my immediate circle and connect with those who felt trapped in a cycle of confusion. I knew that I could be a conduit, a vessel for the truth that would help others peel back the layers of deception that clouded their understanding. As I continued to share my journey and insights, it became clear that the path ahead was steeped in both promise and peril, and yet I felt a profound sense of duty accelerating my resolve to ignite awakening in others, just as Jesus had done for me. Years have passed since my life was turned upside down by that fateful day in the courtroom. Today I find myself thriving within a community that embraces my faith, a sanctuary for those striving to make sense of their beliefs amid a chaotic world. The support I receive from my fellow believers is a balm for the wounds I once carried, that deep sense of isolation after my spiritual awakening. I remember vividly the tidal wave of rejection from my family, the sense of loss that followed me like a shadow. Yet, through this community, I discovered the strength to turn my pain into purpose. In sharing my testimony, I've become a source of inspiration for many who wrestle with their own crises of belief. I've seen firsthand the urgent need to lift the veil of deception that clouds so many lives. When I recount my encounter with Jesus, I can see the flicker of hope ignite within others' eyes. It's such a powerful moment when someone recognizes that they too can find their way out of the darkness. Each story I share highlights not just my struggles, but the broader implications of our shared spiritual war against a system designed to keep us divided and fearful. I express the truth that everyone deserves the opportunity to awaken from their slumber. My journey has revealed hidden agendas that shape our common narratives, how the elite often manipulate us through fear and misinformation. It's a sobering realization, one that I've come to challenge openly in my discussions. In our group, we explore the socio-political landscape, identifying how effective propaganda leads to wars and division in our society. The anecdotes of complex battles fought both internally and externally resonate with what my community endures daily. There's a purity to these conversations. They're fueled by a shared desire to break free from chains and finally speak the truth. Each encounter strengthens my resolve to foster reconciliation, not just within my own family, but also among those feeling the weight of isolation like I once did. I hold a deep hope that by opening up about my experiences, I might someday bridge the gaps that have formed between my beliefs and the traditions that shaped my upbringing. It's a process, one woven with moments of joy and heavy heartache. I've learned that forgiveness is as much a part of this journey as discovery. My own journey towards forgiveness is ongoing, a dynamic interplay that fuels my mission to connect with others on a deeper level. Navigating this delicate path is not without its challenges. There are days when the pressure to conform to past expectations weighs heavily on my heart, and the fear of judgment still creeps in. Yet, the truths I have embraced serve as an anchor, reminding me why I chose this journey in the first place. I recognize that these challenges are integral to my spiritual awakening, encouraging growth and resilience amidst adversity. As I continue to share my story and assist others in their struggles, I feel a profound sense of purpose driving me forward. Each step I take leads me closer to that moment when I can look back and know that my journey has not only transformed my life, but also inspired others to embark on theirs. The light of truth is waiting to be revealed, and I am dedicated to ensuring that no one walks this path alone. For much of my life, I had conformed to the rhythm of expectation. I dedicated myself to my work as a prosecutor, weaving my identity around the legal system and the principles of justice. Yet, deep down, I felt an emptiness that lingered like a shadow. The more I excelled in my career, the more I grappled with the limits imposed by my religious upbringing. It wasn't until that fateful moment in the courtroom, when I lost consciousness and encountered Jesus, that everything changed. What I experienced in that spiritual realm would unravel the very beliefs I had held sacred for so long. In the depths of my unconsciousness, I met Jesus. Radiant and powerful, his presence filled the void with a light that felt like home. When he called my name, it resonated with the core of my being. He revealed truths that penetrated the fabric of my understanding, exposing the hidden agenda of those who sought to control the masses through deception. Jesus showed me the mechanisms by which fear, divisiveness, and ignorance were perpetuated by the elite, creating an elaborate illusion designed to keep us from realizing our true potential. The truth I overheard was both liberating and terrifying, and it shook me to my core. When I awoke, the weight of this revelation pressed heavily on me. The world outside continued the same mundane dance, oblivious to the profound insights I had gained. Yet I felt an insatiable urge to share this truth with others, to awaken them from their slumber. I discovered the spiritual war raging not only inside myself, but also in society at large. Conflicts born from deeply entrenched beliefs and manipulated perceptions. The stories of wars and suffering I had witnessed around the world began to take on new meaning. I could see the patterns of deception playing out, keeping us divided and consumed by fear. As I delved into the scriptures, I saw how the teachings I had always adhered to could coexist with this new understanding. The revelations did not dismiss the essence of my faith. Instead, they enhanced it and challenged me to think more openly and critically. Exploring the Bible became a foundation for navigating the complexities of my spiritual journey. With each passage, I found echoes of the truths Jesus had conveyed to me, urging believers to awaken and dispel the darkness surrounding them. The more I studied, the more I understood the importance of reconciling beliefs that had once felt adversarial. Armed with this understanding, I sought to connect with others on their journeys. I began sharing my testimony, hoping to inspire those grappling with their own spiritual conflicts. My experiences resonated with a few, igniting conversations on faith and the hidden agendas that compromise our values. Even though some rejected my insights, others began to awaken, recognizing the urgency to confront the deceptions in their own lives. I could feel a sense of community building, one forged in mutual exploration and respect for diverse beliefs. As I opened my heart to others, I felt a sense of hope rising within me for reconciliation, not just within my family, but for a greater understanding among humanity. The road ahead was fraught with potential, a journey not only of self-discovery, but also of collective awakening. Reflecting on this, I couldn't help but wonder how far I could go in spreading this truth before the forces of the status quo attempted to silence me again. Now that you've walked alongside me in this journey of awakening, I must leave you with a question that lingers in my heart. Have you ever felt an invisible thread connecting your life to something far more profound, a whisper of truth calling you to rise above the chaos? As I stood face to face with Jesus in that realm of light, I realized that we are all woven into a greater tapestry, a divine narrative that transcends our individual stories. This isn't just my awakening, it's an invitation for you to awaken too. In this world where fear and division often reign, there lies an urgent call to discern the truth hidden beneath the surface. The spiritual war one witnessed extends into every corner of our existence, and each of us plays a crucial role in shifting the balance toward light. You are not just a spectator in this cosmic play. You are part of a movement toward understanding, healing, and collective awakening. So I ask you, what truths have you uncovered in your own life? Have you seen glimpses of this divine warfare, or felt the weight of unexamined beliefs pulling you into darkness? I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. I read every story, and your voice matters. Together, we can illuminate paths previously shrouded in darkness. Don't miss out on this journey to uncover deeper truths. Subscribe to Truth from Beyond and activate notifications. Doing so ensures you stay connected with this community as we explore the revelations that lie just beyond the veil, guiding us toward a collective awakening that is more urgent now than ever. In the next video, we'll delve into another powerful testimony, a story of transformation that highlights the spiritual awakening's ripple effect through communities. I'm Ahmad, and thank you for allowing me to share this fragment of my journey with you. Remember, the truth is a light that cannot be extinguished. It beckons to those ready to see.